All right, today we're going to deconstruct a pretty wild, rapid-fire series of major foreign policy statements that all happened in just one exchange. We're going to unpack the claims, look at the context, and try to figure out what it all means. One piece at a time. Let's dive in.
So it all kicks off with this really ambitious, kind of off-the-cuff remark. It could be number 10 for me. Number 10? Number 10 what exactly? Well, as we'll see, this isn't just some random number. It's a reference to solving a huge global conflict, maybe the 10th one on the speaker's personal list.
And there you have it. The speaker is basically suggesting they're on the brink of sealing a 10th major peace or ceasefire deal. I mean, that sets an incredibly high bar, right? So what's the first big announcement in this series?
First up, we're diving straight into a monumental claim about the Middle East. The declaration is about a potential breakthrough in one of the region's most complicated and long-running conflicts, the one between Israel and Lebanon. And just to give you a sense of why this is such a big deal, the speaker makes sure to mention the history here. This conflict has been raging for 48 years. 48 years. That's nearly half a century of hostilities, which really puts into perspective why any kind of resolution would be a geopolitical earthquake.
So who is supposedly at the table for this historic agreement? Well, the statement names some pretty major players, the leaders of Israel and Lebanon. That's Bibi Netanyahu and the Lebanese president, and, crucially, it also ropes in a third major party, Hezbollah.
And here it is, the core of the announcement. A ceasefire is happening, and it explicitly brings Hezbollah into the fold. It's presented as a sure thing, a definitive breakthrough. But, just as you're trying to process what that even means, the whole conversation takes a sharp, hard turn. And just like that, the topic changes completely. In a flash, we jump from a supposed resolution in the Middle East all the way over to the ongoing war in Eastern Europe. This kind of jump is really a trademark of the entire exchange we're looking at. It moves from one incredibly complex international issue to another with basically no transition at all, which forces you to constantly hit the reset button and reorient yourself.
Now, the discussion on Ukraine is super brief. It's framed less as some new policy and more as a personal wish for peace, really emphasizing the heavy human cost of the war. And just like that, we're on the move again, this time to what really seems to be the main event of this whole Q&A.
The conversation now lands squarely on Iran and a potential nuclear deal. Of all the topics that get brought up, this is the one that gets the most detailed attention and, by far, the most optimistic spin. The tone here is just radiating confidence. It's not just that a deal might happen, but that it's looking very good and it's going to be a good deal. So you have to ask, right? What's all this optimism based on? Well, the speaker points to one single thing: leverage.
And that leverage, according to the source, is coming from what's described as an incredible blockade. This economic pressure is presented as the main tool, the thing that has totally crippled Iran's ability to do business on the world stage and has forced them to come to the table.
And the supposed effects of this blockade? They're dramatic. I mean, we're talking about a complete teardown of Iran's military. No navy, no air force, not even anti-aircraft equipment. And the claims go even further, suggesting there's been a fundamental shift in leadership, with the old guard gone and new, reasonable leaders now in charge. Okay, so the stage is set. You've got a country that's supposedly been backed into a corner and is now ready to negotiate. So what are the actual terms? What would this new agreement look like?
This is where it gets really interesting. A reporter asks a very specific and honestly, a critical question. It's about that 20-year limit on uranium enrichment, often called a sunset clause. It's a huge point of contention from past deals, and this is where the answer gets, well, a little nuanced. The answer is really telling. At first, it sounds like a direct denial. We haven't agreed to any. But then, it immediately pivots. Instead of talking about the 20-year time limit, the speaker reframes the entire goal. They mention a very powerful statement that Iran will not have nuclear weapons, period, a promise that exists beyond any kind of 20-year timeline.
So let's take a breath. What can we take away from this absolute whirlwind tour of foreign policy? We've heard massive claims about ceasefires in the Middle East, a quick comment on the war in Europe, and then a really detailed, optimistic vision for a new deal with Iran, all delivered in a single, breathless exchange. We've just deconstructed claims of historic transformations, all delivered with incredible speed and confidence. And this really leaves us with a critical question to think about. When major policy gets declared on the fly like this, how do we, as citizens trying to stay informed, separate what's real from what's spin? How do we figure out what's a concrete plan versus what's just a public pronouncement? That's the challenge we'll leave you with today.